Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's Tuesday, and for now, it sounds like the Ukrainian invasion has been called off. I will go into that a little bit, but let's go into the charts first. So let's start here with the S&P 500. Yesterday, big dump and then recovery when the Ukrainian president made a joke about, that they've been told that they were going to be invaded on Wednesday. He was being, do I look sleepy? Well, I think I'm looking, I don't feel sleepy. Maybe I don't know. Anyways, he was making a joke about it and the market freaked out and then kind of realized that like everything is okay. Oh, we're having the news here, by the way. We got the PPI. We should, yeah. Jeez. You know what? I must be off because it took me a lot longer to get ready this morning. Okay. Okay, so the PPIs are higher than anticipated. So it is causing them to move a little bit. Yields haven't really budged. And New York Fed manufacturing was 3.1 versus 12. Core PPI was spot 8 versus an expected spot 5. So producers are actually eating some of the cost increases. That's interesting. Anyways, back to the charts. So anyways, yeah, when they called it off. Now, then the other thing is that the Russians came out and announced that they were moving all of their units back to position. So this is another one of those things where it's like the U.S. comes and says, no, they haven't, that nothing's changed. And the Russians said they've backed off. But the market is going up because of that. All right. And the 10-year has gone back to its lows as a result here. Man, they really came back here in the Treasury after that. Was that in the morning? I forget what it was that they did yesterday. What was it that we had yesterday morning? Oh, I don't think that it was anything, but I do remember just kind of sitting back and watch. But here, before the end of the day, they came back to 2%. Now they're only 4 basis points is a pretty big move, but 4 basis points higher now today. Let's look at oil. Is oil coming back? Oil's coming back. Yeah, natural gas. Oh, and natural gas is actually up for some reason. So there might be some problems over there again. Gold is taking a big old hit, and so is silver, and copper looks good. So overall, it looks like the market is reacting to this news saying we no longer believe that there is going to be that there's going to be an invasion. Yeah, the PPI was spot 8 for core CPI month over month, and the regular PPI month over month was 1 versus spot 5. So it was higher than anticipated. Market doesn't seem to be reacting too strongly to it, but they don't necessarily care about the PPI as much. And if anything, companies or producers are taking some of the hit for the higher inflation instead of passing it on to consumers is actually kind of a good thing as far as inflation expectations are concerned, right? That said, I wouldn't be selling the treasuries here, right? Hmm. Liquidity here in the treasury is not particularly very good, though. I wonder. So if oil is going to come back here, how far back is it going to come? Because yeah, that's a reason for concerning means inflation should be higher and that could manifest in the future. Well, that's true, but I think that that's not as big of a concern for them right now. Like, so I think that the consensus thinking right now is that inflation has been more persistent than anticipated, but that it is still transitory in nature. And because then there's kind of two sides of it, right? There's the one side that says that it's just supply disruptions, and the supply disruptions should ease up before the end of the year. The other side of it is kind of more my camp, which is that hey, you can't put in hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars of stimulus into the economy, um, and not put any of it into the supply side of it, and you're just increasing demand and not increasing supply, and so of course prices go up. Well, if that's the case, all of the monetary stimulus is now passed, including the child tax credits that Joe Biden gave people, that was giving people like monthly paychecks and stuff. So that is in either direction, sorry, either side that you take about what's causing the inflation, people kind of anticipate that those pressures aren't as strong right now. So if the producers are eating some of it, that suggests to me that the producers think that same thing. They're saying, no, we don't want to raise our prices because we know that this isn't going to last, right? And if we raise our prices now, it might come back to bite us in the future. So that's why I'm saying I think that it could be kind of an encouraging sign that the producers are not passing the inflation on to consumers. I mean, we know that there's inflation out there, so I don't know if the PPI number that we got really tells us a whole lot about the degree of inflation and how aggressive the Federal Reserve needs to get. If that makes sense. So, but I don't know. That's just my reading. I don't know if that's how everybody else is reading it. PPI is low volatility and wasn't worth my weight. CPI, it tends to be bigger than PPI these days, but and we've had I don't know, Nasdaq. You're looking for some volatile markets. We've had some like really volatile events lately. But we are into the quieter part of the month now, right? So let's come back and look at the calendar. Well, tomorrow we have core retail sales. Retail sales tends to be pretty important. We're also going to get the FOMC meeting minutes tomorrow at noon. That could be important. That could be really important to see what is actually going on under the scenes at that last meeting. We've got a few Fed speakers coming. Oh, we got a lot of Fed speakers coming later in the week, actually. Fed monetary policy report tentative on Friday. Yes, I want more. Feed me. Well, I don't know. Unless Russia decides to attack Ukraine tomorrow, I'm thinking that volatility is probably going to decline. That's this whole thing yesterday. I mean, I wish you were up. You were probably asleep by that point when oh no, actually you were here when the president spoke and said that Did that happen while we were streaming? I don't recall now. Were we here when the Ukraine said we've received notice that we're going to be attacked on Wednesday? It was a joke. I'm like, you can make this stuff up, right? So you had a perfect one where the market like really got hit, and and then it came back. No, it was later in the day, I guess. That's one of the best trades you're ever gonna get, right? The one unfortunately, I don't speak Ukrainian. There was people in the tweets saying, "Oh, hey, I'm Ukrainian." That's not what he said at all. Those are the best because the robot screwed up. You can fade that. Easy money. Unfortunately, I don't speak Ukrainian, so I didn't know that. Maybe he was short. Well, people were saying, would it make sense to try and front run international volatility? 100%. People 100% do. And one of the things that you will see this the most clearly in is if you go and you look at currency trading. Oh, man. That's when currency trading is kind of when you really start to get. Because most currency traders have nothing to run on other than like technicals. And these actions from big banks and multinational corporate, big banks and nations and this, that, and the other, it's like they can move it so far. So it's like you can be making just teeny tiny little profits here, and then they just completely wipe out your account if you're the wrong way. Or if you're the right way, it's like, all of a sudden you have a few $1,000s. And sometimes you'll see these moves, it'll happen, and then later you'll see the announcement. And that's when you're like, oh man, like information really matters, and I'm not necessarily on the inside, But that has more to do with like country level decisions. So, but a lot of people are saying, could you front run this sort of a thing? 100%. 100%. Like the administration knows that they're going to come out and say that they think Ukraine is going to get attacked or whatever the deal is. They could trade off of that. And as far as I understand, there's no laws against it. Now, we kind of have to go back to our little framework about what's more likely and what are like the strategic objectives and incentives, right? So we were saying earlier yesterday. Yeah, it was that move later during the day. It was this thing over here. Like there was I guess it was around noon. It was around noon that kind of came in and hit them down. And then they slowly recovered as people realized that it was just joking. And then this move overnight here was when Russia announced that they were sending all of their military equipment back home, right? So when that headline hit, the markets kind of, breathed a sigh of relief. Now, I find it kind of funny that given everything else that has happened, that the market is just kind of taking their word for it. But I'm in the same spot. I think that it is extremely unlikely that Russia is going to invade Ukraine tomorrow. I'm not quite sure how I can express how I know that, but it seems to me like it's extremely unlikely at this point. Which kind of leaves us in the odd situation, I think, because the odd situation was, okay, what's really going on here? It was Russia going to attack and the US warded them off? Did the Russians feed the Americans bad intelligence? Or did the Americans just completely make it up? So I think we walked into why the CIA trying to feed Joe Biden false information kind of doesn't make any sense, right? So then there was the other one, which was that Joe Biden could be making it up. I did hear stuff in the squawk about it, yeah, when it happened. But I wasn't actively trading at that time. I was working. We did a lot of work yesterday. Anyways, so the question is, what incentives does Joe Biden have to want to lie about the Ukraine situation, right? And I think we were saying, well, he might do it because his poll numbers are down and it might distract people from his bad poll numbers and could potentially give him some sort of a win that they can use to try and help his sagging poll numbers. And but then I said, well, yeah, but kind of like look at how this works out, because I don't think that anybody takes the administration's word seriously anymore. If Russia doesn't attack on Wednesday, because that's where I'm at. Is this if Joe Biden says that there's an imminent attack, it's crying wolf. You cry wolf, and nobody's gonna believe you, right? Well, I think though there was a slight flaw in my logic there, and the slight flaw in my logic there is that even though it might not help Joe Biden could be stupid enough to think that it would help him. To think that it would help, right? So I don't know. The Russians are saying that he's making it up. The Russians think that Joe Biden is making it up. And the Ukrainians do too, frankly. Everybody over there. I'm not talking about Zelensky, but like from everything that I've seen, lots of people on social media and stuff talking about this. Nobody in Ukraine thinks that Russia is going to invade. None of them think that. But I don't know. Would you close the embassies and all of this other stuff if you didn't think that it was really serious? Because that's a pretty troubling sign, you know? I suppose it's still possible that they attack tomorrow, right? You would try and confuse them, make everybody think that it's not going to happen, and then you actually do attack. But so here again, I'm like stuck in this spot where I'm like, well, I don't think that they are going to attack, but how do I know that? Because the only piece of information that we have is the Russians saying that they're backing off their troops and that tomorrow will be a day of unity and yada yada yada. Well, the Americans are saying, oh, no, like nothing has changed. So why? But the market believes the Russians, and frankly, I do too at this point. So why is that? Isn't that weird? Or is it just that none of us really trust or believe Joe Biden? What do you guys think? I could do a poll. You know what? If I did a poll and I said, will Russia invade Ukraine tomorrow? I think that 100% of you guys would say no. I don't know. And here's the thing. If the administration is just looking for a win, like, oh, okay, we ruined their plans because we told everybody about it, they didn't attack. I think the infosphere is a mess. It really is. Well, so again, can you imagine too much access for foreign actors? I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean by that. I'm really, this whole situation really makes me wonder what is going to happen to people's trust in the news, because if you know, if the US administration can come out and make such a bold proclamation and then just be totally wrong on it, you know, that ends up being a big win for Russia, I think. I don't know. I think I'm having a hard time seeing past my own individual biases here, but I have a very hard time seeing how this situation results in a win for Joe Biden. I have a friend in the Air Force um, who says that we've been making movements to prepare for this stuff. And that we've been preparing for 3 weeks, but the public doesn't know. And then he had to burst his bubble and tell them everybody knows they let the military use TikTok and everyone knows everything they do. Twitter accounts have been tracking military fights over there for like a month now. That's true. I mean, my understanding is that there is some fighting in Ukraine, but that the actual amount is not all that. It's not all that dramatic. Like the fighting between the fighters in Donetsk or whatever it is, wherever it is. But I don't necessarily trust TikTok accounts either. Is just too easy, man. I gotta tell you, it's just too easy for people to just completely make stuff up and put it on TikTok or Twitter or whatever, and and there's a large number of people that no matter what completely buy it. I don't get it. It's like we've had the internet for such a long time. I mean, it's been a few decades now of the internet, and people still don't verify information. I don't. Nah, I'm not sure I agree with that. Our liberal usage of social media puts us at a staggering disadvantage in both information and physical warfare. I think, first of all, I think that if it was really something serious, like they were going to, so I guess I think the point you're trying to make is that something like Operation Overlord would not work today, right? Because the soldiers would out themselves on social media, right? Well, so first of all, the soldiers didn't even necessarily know what they were going to do until like the day of for Operation Overlord. And but second of all, what our soldiers would say probably wouldn't matter because you can't move a military force like that without satellites seeing it, right? So, mm, but I also think there is some strategic thinking behind some of this stuff. Like um, the US doctrine appears to be just create as much chaos as possible. So they actually like it that you people will be saying contradicting things on social media, and there's all these people are confused and stuff like that, because their take is that their soldiers, or our soldiers and our people, are educated and smart and can figure out what the correct action for them to take in that moment is without the government having to tell them. And so they can utilize the chaos to their advantage. The fog of war. But that's kind of a side thing. I don't think that really matters. The question is, when the US president starts to blatantly manipulate media, what does that do to trust in information sources? Seems like a problem to me. Like if it came out that the administration knew nothing was going to happen and they said that anyways, I think that would be a huge scandal. Don't you? I don't think you'd get away with that. I think that if there was if the Republicans were, well, actually, I think that this is something that Republicans, when they take over Congress, at the end of the year, could investigate. Yeah. I gauge the truthfulness of information on how hard it is suppressed. Unfortunately, I have yet to see a situation where that really mattered to our trading. Social media doesn't ban or fact check you when you talk about aliens and flat Earth. Well, right, because what the information that you're sharing about aliens and flat Earth doesn't necessarily affect other people. So you really so let's talk about this. I don't think that people understand the dichotomy between Republicans and Democrats in the post-pandemic world. Really the most pure level. And then Squawk was saying something in my head. Um, Democrats think that it is the government's job to protect people and maximize life in any way possible and in every situation. And Republicans think that we should follow the Constitution. That's really literally what this has come down to. Is Democrats want the government overreach for with the excuse that it will save lives, and Republicans are saying no, you can't do that because the Constitution forbids that. And the whole thing is that the United States was founded and based on a principle of freedom, maximum freedom, right? The how did this guy say it? The defining characteristic of American democracy was not that we elected our leaders. I think a lot of people seem to think that, but we were not the first nation to elect leaders, right? Rome did that for thousands of years. That's not the defining characteristic of American democracy. The defining characteristic of American democracy was the upholding of individual freedoms above all else. And what you were seeing during this pandemic is an like outright attack on that very founding principle of the nation. I know that that's like my own, part of that is my own political take on it, but like that's literally what's going on. I don't think that you see any other way of looking at it. They have used the pandemic to erode personal freedoms, right? And you can see this very much so in the way that they try and censor social media, right? They censor. They say you can be shut up. They can censor you because you're sharing harmful information or you're saying something hateful or whatever the deal is. And the Constitution doesn't say that. That's like if it's hateful, then you don't have freedom of no. If it can cause immediate harm, then there can be a legal reason to then you can be held legally accountable. But sharing information about vaccines that is clinically, from a clinical study that doesn't go along with what the government wants you to hear, they shouldn't be able to shut you up about that. Hmm. Yes, they bring up the Constitution when the Democrats are in power. Well, I can't. Obviously, whenever somebody is in power, they will have the tendency to want to try and erode personal freedoms. But I don't think that what the Republicans did is anything even remotely close to what I've seen Democrats try and do. And you can just kind of see like the way things are working. Like, so look at what happens in Canada here. This I think that what happens in Canada is probably going to be a big tell. So in Canada, so first of all, they had these big protests and they were shutting down border crossings, and there was one border crossing in Ottawa in particular that was particularly problematic because there was all this traffic that goes through a bridge to, factories in Detroit or whatever, and that was shut down for several days. And so the Canadian authorities came in and cleared that. But interestingly enough, by that point, the protesters had basically all left. Like there was not very many protesters that stayed, and the few that did not put up much resistance, and so it was very easy for the Canadian government to clear it. And I believe that the protesters felt like they had made their point and they had sparked like nationwide and even worldwide protests over this, and that their goals had been largely been accomplished. Okay. Well, overnight, yesterday, Justin Trudeau started saying that they're going to invoke this emergency act that basically gives them like martial law like powers. And then last night they said that they're going to give banks and financial institutions the ability to shut down accounts if they suspect that that person is aiding or abetting the protesters. Aiding or abetting, that if they're assisting the protests, they can just shut down your funds now, right? So now it is really gone. I mean, this has kind of already been happening to some extent, but now they really just the thing that we've all been saying, what's going to stop this from happening, and now they've done it, right? You protest, the government is going to shut off your access to the financial system, is what's going on in Canada right now. Okay. Obviously, this has created quite a firestorm in the political sphere, and or well, at least conservatives are very, very upset. And I think that a lot of Canadians will be upset. So what happens from here? So first of all, I think that Canadian Parliament has to do something, and I'm not so sure that they're going to authorize that action. First of all, but then second of all, will this escalate? Will Canadians, because truckers could just refuse to not work, right? Lots of people could just refuse to not work. Apparently, this act also says that if you refuse to do this, they can lock you up. So now it's like you have to work or we'll lock you up. Okay, so it's really turning into like straight up third world autocracy kind of bullshit, right? Excuse my language. But so will people stop working to protest? Will there be like a general strike for this? Or will these measures be enough to cause people to back off and Trudeau wins, essentially? Right? They're protesting. So the thing that really sparked the mandates was the vaccine mandates, that not being allowed to cross the border if you don't have a vaccine. Say what? If no work, then jail? Yeah. So, for instance, one of the things that was happening was the government wanted to clear the protesters from the border, and so they would call tow truck companies to be able to tow all of the trucks away, and the tow truck companies refused. And so part of what this rule allows them to do is hold them legally, punish them legally if they refuse to assist. The logic behind that makes sense. So essentially it is, if no work, then jail. Yeah. So it's like if the entire trucking industry decides today, and frankly it's like a possibility this sort of thing could happen, right? If the trucking industry decides today we're just on general strike now, right, then supposedly this law would allow them to lock you up. Allow anyone to launder money, but anyone who objects or asks for accountability frees their money. Anyways, so if this leads to a stronger reaction from conservatives in Canada and hurts Justin Trudeau's polling and his party's control, and there's like some sort of vote of confidence and they remove him, that's like one scenario. And the other scenario is like this all just blows over and Trudeau wins because of his extreme measures, right? But I think that this is going to be a pretty big um tell for where things are going in other area places. Because it seems to me right now that people are tired of what their governments have been doing, the restrictions and so forth, and they're pushing back now. Even if and even if they're not willing to like go and protest about it, um, they're just tired, right? And we'll start seeing more and more leaders start to acquiesce, I suppose. It's really hard because like giving up the mask mandates is kind of like giving in their minds. But is there an app that sends me a message 5 minutes before there's breaking? No. Dude, you got to know the first thing that you got to do is come over to the Forex factory and say, okay, what is all in here? You should just know from the beginning of the week what are the big ones that I'm probably not so good at that, but that's probably the level that we should be at is we should know what news is going to be released that week, right? And then the other thing is I would always go to newssquawk.com and read their morning briefing. That might alert you to other significant events that might be happening that day. And then you've just got to know when they're going to happen and be ready. Communist Canada. I mean, is it to the point where it's communist? I don't know. It sure sounds like things are getting pretty crazy over there. Like I'm really shocked that Justin Trudeau is taking the measures that he is. I'm quite shocked. But the point of that wasn't to show my take on the Canadian situation. The point was to highlight the key battle, which is the need for public safety versus the personal freedoms. America was founded on personal freedoms above all else, right? And where is the public going on that? And what does that mean for our media use? Because what's been happening is we've been seeing censorship with the excuse that of public safety, and we can clearly see instances where uh, good information was censored. Technically, Canada is still a colony of Great Britain. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of more symbolic than anything. I guess Putin is talking because I'm hearing him say a lot of stuff on the news squawk here. What? And I saw somebody on Twitter making a extravagant claim, and they're like, "Here's the study," and I go and I read the study, and it didn't say what they said at all. So I'm not going to repeat what they said. Well, the treasuries really flipped around there and are pushing back higher again, aren't they? So the problem that I have here is that I don't know what price is fair for the treasury. I feel like anything above 2 I think that it should be above 2, but I don't know where we should be settling. Hmm. Somebody or I guess New York Times did an expose on Peter Thiel. See people talking about that. That's the one that I would just look up Peter Thiel a little bit because he is turning into a big player on the conservative side and funding people and maybe involved in some sort of future social media venture. Let's see, is there anything else going on here in markets that nice pump ESNQ? Nah, it wasn't a pump. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So Putin is still speaking. Well, while Putin is speaking and the news squawk is saying a bunch of stuff, it's kind of hard for me to focus. You notice that it's been harder for me to speak. Okay, so the reason that there was a big jump overnight was because Russian troops supposedly backed off from their preparations. That they left their patrols on the border and started returning back to bases. That's what the Russians said. That was like around 1:30. That was the big jump that you saw in the overnight, and then since then it's kind of just been churning over, right? Hmm. CNN, US believes Russian intelligence agencies have worked closely with the editorial staff of 5 Russian language media outlets to boost public support for the renewed invasion of Ukraine. US officials familiar with the intelligence assessment told CNN. Putin had a frank exchange on Russian security initiatives. Russia deterrence is a national security threat, says Putin ready for more talks on security with the US and NATO. Putin, I'm willing to resume discussions on missiles and other topics. Bunch of stuff about this controversy around a failed drug test in the Olympics ice skating. Joseph Borrell Fonteles, the EU strongly condemns the Russia State Duma decision to submit a call to President Putin to recognize the non-government controlled areas of Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts of Ukraine as independent entities. This recognition would be a clear violation of the Minsk agreements. Market Ear says, time to focus beyond Vlad, pricing rate cuts. Well, I don't know what is the impetus for this more recent move up in the treasuries, but I suspect that it is just market making. I appreciate it, FTH. That's what we're here for, right? My goal is to make you guys all informed traders. That's my goal. That's my purpose in life now. Part of that means talking about politics and trying to expound both on my own beliefs and the beliefs of opposition people to so that you can make better decisions about how certain political situations might turn out, because those do matter quite greatly to markets these days. Mm, I'm seeing like what's going on right now is all of the what do we say? Like all of the news outlets are putting out their stories today. So like Bloomberg, COVID-19 cases among children have surged across the world amid Omicron fueled outbreaks. Here's what we know so far. Right. But I'm kind of like searching for a reason to do something, and the treasury market just seems to be acting a little weird. Don't you think? I suppose they've decided that the majority of the downtrend, or rather, the rise in rates and decline in prices is stabilized for now, and they're just kind of ranging. So perhaps this move up to the top of the range is just a test of the range and doesn't represent any kind of informed trading. I just I find it curious that the PPI moved us a certain amount, right? And now we're able to move to the other side of the range without any news. Because, even though PPI isn't as big of a deal as CPI, and I gave a couple of reasons about why the markets might have reacted the way that it did, I still find it weird that the market ranging is able to test those levels and the PPI it's not. General Motors General Motors CEO says will resume production of Bolt EV and EUV at Orion Township, Michigan plant the week of April 4th. Is that related to the Canadian protests, I think? So a lot of those factories were running just like on skeleton crews because they didn't have the parts. Senate Dems will be returning to the normal routine Tuesday. Hmm. Wonder what they're gonna do. Oh, I know what they're gonna do. They're going to try and get through the congressional trading ban. Yeah. Well, I don't think that I would have gotten filled at 2.040. That's why I didn't put an order out there. But it does look like they're coming back pretty quickly, huh? Scholes says de-escalation is urgently necessary. Can't see any justification for Russian troop buildup. That's German Chancellor Scholz. Well, if that was just a test of the range, they sure came back quickly there, didn't they? And a decent amount of volume starting to trade at 23 now. Perhaps profit taking. It's only like 2,000 contracts, so that could very easily be profit taking. By the way, I kind of wonder here. Um, so gold and silver got hammered today because of the Ukraine situation dying down. But I also think that there has been some buying from gold as an inflation hedge. And in particular, there was a note out from Goldman Sachs yesterday suggesting that Bitcoin is like um the high growth inflation hedge, and um gold is the stagflationary inflation hedge, which is kind of an interesting thesis, and I'm interested to see how it works out. But one of the things that I was thinking about is, like, if you look at Bitcoin and gold are kind of interesting because there isn't a lot of industry around them to create activity in the instrument, right? Like the way that oil moves or the way that treasuries move, a lot of that is activity, hedgers and so forth that have to do something because their business relies on that asset, right? um Gold, Bitcoin, not so much. It's mostly speculative, right? So, but what's the difference between gold and Bitcoin? Well, I think one of the differences with gold is that nations buy gold. Maybe someday nations buy Bitcoin, but at the moment, I don't see it happening. So, if there is, in particular, if there is like uh, international intrigue involving the United States, gold might be a better hedge in those cases. That was basically the argument that the Goldman Sachs analysts were saying, and therefore they turned into, when we're having high growth, Bitcoin is a better inflation hedge, and when we're in more of a stagflationary environment, or there is international, what is the word that I'm looking for? I don't know, global risk events, essentially, then maybe you want gold. Gold was always like that since I was like, yeah. I mean, the thing is that like real rates is really hammered. It's a really hammered gold. It hammered Bitcoin too. It kind of took a little bit for the for Bitcoin to come back down, right? And I kind of suspect that in cryptocurrencies that it may just be at somewhat of a coincidence, you know? Like, it was the right point in the cycle and people had a lot of money and Tether was pumping, sort of a thing. So it could be that any kind of trends that we're seeing, like, oh, Bitcoin falls when interest rates are rising, could just be a coincidence. It really, frankly, at this point, it could still just be largely a coincidence. We'll see if they ever decouple from real rates. Okay, well, the treasuries did come back pretty hard there, but they did bounce a little bit at 22 again. So I still see people leaning here in the order flow. But again, if I don't have any kind of informed trading to guide my entries, the best that I could do is try to lean as well. And then I'm just at the mercy of whether the market maker decides to try and stop me out. And it seems like anytime that I take a position, they decide to do it. So I don't know if the lean at 22, buying at 22 actually makes sense. AOC believes that there is a very real risk that the United States will not have a democracy 10 years from now. That we risk having a government that perhaps postures as a democracy and may pretend that it is, but it isn't. Are we not already at the point? It's not the market maker, rather algos that hunt stop. Well, I mean, when I talk about market maker, I'm basically talking about collection of algorithms, right? Um, but I'm having a hard time. It could be currency correlation. I mean, 6J is kind of ranging here too. Did they when they turned here? Yeah, actually it does kind of look pretty well correlated with the 6J, right? Oh, so I made a TikTok about this, but you got to realize that the market maker wins from the randomness. It doesn't necessarily have to screw you over, right? But that's just like exactly the thing is that me coming in and buying it just because it's at the lower end of the range, uh, I think you're taking a big risk by using that as the basis of your strategy. Like, I'm super tempted to do it, but I think that today in this situation, I don't want to take the risk. Um, I feel like that there's probably still going to be maybe some headlines that come through that might give us better moves, and also the S&P 500 is going to open up here soon, right? So we could get a move from that. But it does seem like that if I try and make that kind of range play, that my stop gets hunted. Shots should be. I'm not. So I've tested that actually though, and I didn't find that ATRs worked very well. So I don't know if I can show you over here. You've seen this before, haven't you, FTH? Where they might have this chart. Here it is. Yeah. So like, here's a great example. You're in an uptrend. So what do? They come in, they break the ATR stop, then bounce back higher. Here, wait, let me. Why is the price pivots thing on there? It has a name, and I didn't want it to have a name. ATR trailing stop. So I'm using an ATR period of 3.5. So ATR period of 5 and an ATR multiplier of 3.5. And you can see, like, they'll come over here, they'll stop, they'll we're having an uptrend. They'll break the uptrend and then immediately go back up. And I see this all the time. I tried so hard to try and make a strategy that took advantage of that, but I just couldn't sort it out. So it kind of suggested to me that it was like still random. But like it almost kind of seems to me like that ATR is a dominant strategy in the marketplace and that's why it goes back and tags it. But because it goes back and tags it, that's really just arbitraging it away and bringing it back to a break even trade, and that I can't necessarily try and get an advantage out of it. At least I haven't figured out a way to get an advantage from it. They know that people use ATR, but we have to know what they would do. Yeah, exactly. It's like if we know that they're buying, then we might know that they might try and breach the ATR first, and then I want to go and buy it there. That's exactly kind of my thinking. Putin says there is genocide in the Donbass region. Okay. I hope not. Well, that certainly doesn't make me comfortable about whether or not Russia will invade Ukraine if they claim that there's a genocide going in there. Because what would be a better excuse to move into an area than genocide? Hmm? Oh, but I do FTH there's a multiplier on it. So I'm not just doing the ATR, I'm doing a multiple of the ATR, and I'm using like 3.5. So if you want to have more room, then you would just increase that multiplier. And of course, that's a parameter that you can do the machine learning against. Try 5. Yeah, let me see if I can find the strategy. I guess Putin is still speaking, so I'm probably want to just stay out of that for now. It might have been part of something else. So I might not have a one that's like a pure ATR, and we could just write one really quick. I have so many moving average ones. It's funny. Okay, let's make one. We'll make one and we'll show you a new strategy. We'll call it ATR stop. I think I can just use that. And then I think, where did I put the indicator? No. I have more than one of these. Let's come over here real quick. Yes, I want to see what the difference is. 1 minute, 5 days. That's fine. So I think that a Lizard Indicators has one. EMA, ATR, period. No, ATR trailing stop is what we want. ATR period was 5 and the multiplier was 3.5, I think. Show stop dots, stop line, triangles, yada, 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 yada. Okay, yeah, that's correct. Oh, I can see why I didn't like it though. Oh, this is a lovely little that's just the wilder ATR, right? Yeah. Okay. But because it adds all of that stuff, I think I would rather use the what's it called? I think it's IR ATR. No, that's not it. Where is it? Could be under the free one. Nope, I guess not. Oh, here we go. IR ATR trailing stop V2. 100 CPI trading group indicators. I'm gonna open that up. Just I got to make sure that I get the right namespace, right? Okay, there we go. So we should be able to come in here now using. Is they pushing new lows now? Yeah, they've got to 6. Could have just taken it short off of the ES Open. Wow. Kind of the thing was the spot that I really wanted. I might have been too picky there. It sure seems though like that you're getting a lot of action here now that the ES is going, huh? And it looks like the ES is a buy. Okay, I'm gonna pull this over here. IR ATR trailing stop V2 stop. And then here in else if state equals state dot data loaded. Stop equals ATR trailing stop V2 period comma multi. I don't know what that is. Okay. Semicolon. Int and double public int period get set public double multi get set ninja script property. Copy that. Looks like the bond's kind of bouncing a little bit there at 6. Pull this over here. I'm going to cover it up. You can keep an eye on the 10-year up there, right? This needs to. My microphone feels a little too close today. I don't know what changed. I feel like it's different. It feels different to me. It's weird. Okay, so we should say, let's see here. If stop dot. Oh, actually, how does this work? Dun, 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 dun. Plots 0. Brushes. Version. Okay. So it looks like it is. How does this work? So is it the bar has to close below it or above it? I see. So as soon as the bar closes above it, then it says it. Okay, so I think that I can say if close of 0 is greater than stop of 0, enter long. And then the other way around. Enter short. And then over here we need to set some defaults. Period equals 5 and multi equals 3.5. Super trend is a nice indicator. I agree. I actually I just like the super smoother. It's a simpler, but there's not edge in it, but it is the best moving average. It does end up being the best moving average, so it's not completely worthless. What the heck? Oh, that was something that I was working on the other day that I never finished. That's funny. But there was an error there and I didn't fix it. Close that. ATR stop, 3.5 and 5. Yes, now this might actually come out because I'm not using actual stops, is just flip in reverse. This might come out to be profitable, but I'll show you why that's a problem. And we'll just do this year so far so that it runs fairly quick, all right? I'm going to come in here and turn off the little victory sound that when it finishes, because that is always super loud. Oh, there you go. That was fast. So the ATR stop, you end up losing money most of the time. That's interesting. But what we really want to see is MAE and MFE. So it does get more favorable excursion than adverse excursion. And in fact, the average favorable and adverse excursion is quite extreme. It was quite extreme. But let's come into the analysis and look. Oh, no, that's interesting. Did work for a while. It did work for a while. So could it be cyclical? Well, what started happening around the 27th? Was that when we started moving down? I think, yeah, 27th was FOMC. Well, the day after the FOMC. Oh, that's so interesting. That's so interesting. Okay. I don't think we'll learn much from the drawdowns, but we can do the adverse excursion. Okay, so now that's interesting too. So what do we get from this? Even the ones that won in the end took a lot of excursion, right? Even the ones that were winning trades had a lot of ticks against them. So it's not actually finding a spot where there's a very high chance of it flipping around, right? Or rather, if we were to come in and put like a stop and a target and everything, it would probably make it perform a lot worse. Favorable. And even a lot of these ones that were losers had a high degree of favorable excursion. So what we should be able to do in here, we come in here to, I don't need that open anymore. Into the configure, and we say set stop, I think it is. No. Oh, that's not what I wanted. A lot of these don't have this stuff. I'm just gonna. Oh, let's do aces. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, it says stop loss. Durr. And then stop and reward factor. Mm. Oops, that's not what I want. Stop should be like 16. I'm gonna, well, we'll set the target to be 1. Whoopi Goldberg returns to the view after suspension. Oh, it's stop and reward factor. Forgot to do your homework, girls. No, we're just I didn't have an easy to show example of the ATR stop back tested, so we decided to whip one up real quick. I missed the long here on the micro treasuries. Like there was at the range I could have taken 1.04 or whatever, but they didn't. I don't think that they would have given me any fills anyways. So now they're moving because of the ES going, but I'm not sure that I'm really like see a strong reason for me to want to get involved here. See if I had been trying to get in the last 10 minutes, it would just be going nowhere for me. So, and with the way that they've been trading, pretty good chance that they. Oh man, what's going on with my mouse here? I don't need that. Anyways, so this one reward factor 1 and stop. Let's make it 16 just to start. So that looks pretty awful. Yeah, it is. It actually wins more often, though. But if a reward factor is 0.5, this might. Nope, that's worse. That's worse. It's a lot worse, in fact. Even though their percent profitable is big. Well, what if we need to give it a really wide stop is probably part of that. 16 is a little too tight. 64 maybe? Well, it gets you closer. 0.99. And that gets you break even. There you go. Okay, so this is so let's just do this. Let's just do optimization. And we'll do the reward factor from 0.5 to, let's do 10. Let's go like crazy since this goes so fast. Increment by 0.5. And the stop will be anywhere from 4 to, like, let's do 100. And increment by 4s. You can see that a child is up. So that should give us a good number of 500 iterations. Say it was a strange open today. I think that it was to some extent, yeah. I can't see like my other charts over here because I have the volume profile one open, and I think that something is hung. A back process in NinjaTrader is hung, so I'm probably gonna have to restart NinjaTrader after this. Okay, well, pausing there at 27 iterations isn't very a good sign. Well, I'm using 5K. Oh, look, it finished. Hey, look at that. Well, so what was the parameters? Using a stop of 32 and a reward of 8. Why am I not surprised? I made more money on the short trades. That's interesting. Okay, so here's what I want to do. Let's come back and make our stop 32. 32, right? But start doing stuff on this. 1 to 5. Let's do it at max 5 times the range. Increment by 0.5. We'll keep the period to 5. Maybe we can optimize that next though. Are we any doing? I don't know. I've kind of been anti-combine. I really encourage people to trade their own accounts, because I feel that the combines just encourage you to pursue strategies that will just create bad habits. And okay, so that's a little bit better. So what was the multi 4.5? And what was this one right here? Was this one 5? No. Okay, well, 4.5 for some reason. The way that I'm doing this is totally stupid and unscientific, but it's just we're just kind of screwing around, right? And we could do this one up to 90, I think. About 90 minutes by 5s. Well, the treasuries did back off a decent amount. Well, that didn't really improve it at all, did it? It still seems to think that a period of 5 is best. Oh, that's interesting. All of the ones that worked the best are a period of 5. That could be because you need to modify the stop if you want to do a bigger period, but I don't know. 1.15 profit factor isn't terrible. The Sharpe ratio is 0.53, so it's not really great. We used a few tricks. That's good. The MFE is good. MAE is pretty random actually. You had a lot of losers that had stuff that went against them, right? So this is really making money off of just letting them run, which is fine, but over a larger data set probably isn't going to work, right? Oh, and we want to look at this, the cumulative net profit. Oh, that's pretty good. The pretty good equity curve though. Well, shall we one last thing, we'll open up in a new strategy analyzer. And I mean, the way that I did this is like I curve fitted it, right? So if I go back to like 2018, pretty low probability that this is gonna like do really well. We were just trying to back test an ATR stop. So you can very clearly see from the MAE and MFE that you get with it that that actually did not take too long. Yeah. Oh boy. I always find it so funny when you, let's close this one. When you curve fit it intentionally, it almost always ends up being that like the one time period that you tested and fitted it to is like the only period that it really ever goes up. So look at some of the periods where it did terrible. Ooh, that's the pandemic right there. Oh my, yuck. This is like the one period that it's maybe kind of done well. That's funny. But now we get more data points. We can come and like, now you can look at the MAE. Oh yeah, look at that. So what does that tell you? Right? So you want there to be a skew in this. All of these being over here, you want it to be skewed. What you want to see is the ones that are profitable that are up here have very little adverse excursion. So you want to see a lot over here. And then the ones that do have adverse excursion, they'll be like this and they'll stop out right there. So what we're getting right now is really just random. It's really just random. And then if we come into the MFEs, well, so the MFEs you kind of want to have a skew, right? You kind of want to have a skew. But you want very few. You don't want as many under here. You want them to be like, if they win, they're always winning, and there's not very much against you. So this says, nah, it doesn't. The cross of it is not make a very good entry point, right? We'd want to combine it with some other indicator that says that you're that's really good at reducing adverse excursion, essentially. And maybe we could add, I don't know, I have a couple of ideas. But ultimately it's not going to work probably. We could try putting on the R squared would probably be a good one to add. R squared would be a good one to add. I'm trying to think of what would be the best like turning point. Maybe the Fourier series to determine the turning point. So I think that's enough on that one. Yeah. Okay. Now that I've closed the strategy analyzer, it will let me fix all these other windows. We're good. We're good. So the treasuries did come back, but not very meaningfully. Not for us over here if we wanted to try and get like 05 or 04. There is no emergency that justifies the suspension of civil liberties. That's not true. If there was another country attacking us right now, then that might justify the suspension of civil liberties. Truckers who have been peaceful, those few who engage in civil disobedience complied with court orders or police dispersions to disperse. Trudeau has staged a coup. How do you call it a coup? Okay, whatever. I'm with you, but that tweet didn't really make much sense. Russian media is now pushing claims of a thwarted terrorist attack in Donbass, claiming that may have been organized by Ukraine's defense ministry and special forces. The claim comes as Putin claims genocide is happening in the Donbass. I mean, that particular headline doesn't particularly give me much confidence in this whole Russia is not going to invade tomorrow, and yet I'm pretty sure that Russia's not going to invade tomorrow. Does anybody? Let's do the poll. We talk about it. Let's do the poll. Will Russia attack Ukraine tomorrow? Yes, no. Ask your community. Let's see if I'm right. See what the audience thinks. There we go. Oh, I totally forgot about this other story. So did you guys hear about the block trading scandal? This could be a big deal for us. This could be a very big deal for us. Where I think I was reading most of it about at Zero Hedge. Freedom Convoy organizers say they notified police after being told nefarious elements planned to discredit the protest. Pentagon seeking to verify Russian troop reduction near Ukraine. SEC's conclusions about 2021 GameStop run-up are misguided, academics argue. Oh, well, we're going to have to read that one. Okay, how many of you have voted so far? 2 votes. Come on. There's 19. You can do better than that. Well, pull the window up. Pull the window up and put your votes in. Will Russia attack Ukraine tomorrow? Yes or no? Dun, 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 dun. How come I am not finding the story? Here we go. Here we go. The headline is SEC subpoenas Morgan Stanley and Goldman in a probe of block trading practices. Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs are trading lower after hours following a Wall Street Journal report that federal investigators are probing the business of block trading on Wall Street, with the SEC sending subpoenas to Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and several hedge funds. According to people familiar with the matter, the Wall Street Journal reports that regulators are examining whether bankers may have improperly tipped hedge fund clients in advance of large share sales. Regulators have been looking into irregularities around block trades since at least 2019. Some of the funds that have received subpoenas act as liquidity providers to Wall Street firms, according to some of the people standing by to purchase slugs of stock or other securities, including those that have few interested buyers. The block trading business has boomed in recent years along with everything else, as record volumes of IPOs and secondaries hit the market as liquidity sent stocks higher and higher. The Journal does note that, according to lawyers, the rules surrounding exactly what and when Wall Street firms can tell their clients about upcoming block trades is murky at best, and we note that the issuance of subpoenas doesn't mean charges will be brought against any of the firms or individuals whose activities are being scrutinized. But if there was some practices that were improper and the Department of Justice prosecutes them successfully, that could change the markets a little bit and would maybe be favorable to us. Yeah, maybe. I can only hope. I can only hope. Okay, wait. 6 votes. One of you actually do. One person does actually believe that Russia will attack Ukraine tomorrow. I thought that it was going to be like, well, I thought that more of you guys would vote. We'll keep it open. I'll give you guys plenty of time to vote. But I'm thinking that it's going to be like one person says yes. Well, now I've poisoned the poll because I said that, huh? There's another person voted. 7. So 1 out of 7 says yes. The one person that voted yes want to defend themselves? He might be a Russian agent, or he might be a Biden agent. It might be right. The White House administration has been watching our stream because it's such a useful piece of information, and they are, trying to get us off their scent by saying that yes, Russia will attack Ukraine tomorrow. And Steffa, how's it going? Well, I don't know. How high do you think interest rates can get today? Because I wouldn't mind buying it here and making $10, but are they going to go from 1 to 0258 to 068 and break new highs? I don't know. You're Russian and German? Oh, so you're the one that said that Russia will attack Ukraine tomorrow? Is that what you're saying? The one person you think it's well, if you're knowledgeable on the subject. So for those of you that missed the beginning of the stream, the thing that's been weirding me out is that myself and pretty much everybody else in the market is pretty confident that Russia is not going to attack Ukraine tomorrow. And I just don't understand why we are so confident about it. Because like Russia said that they're backing off, that means that it's over. You know what I mean? Why would we trust what Russia says? Pentagon is still trying to verify. Russia has confirmed that some, though not all, of the military drills that have been ongoing for weeks near the Ukrainian border, which sparked the current crisis wherein Washington charged the Kremlin with planning an imminent military invasion, are winding down as tank units are returning to their permanent bases. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg said in response, this is grounds for cautious optimism as diplomacy continues. So far, we have not seen any de-escalation on the ground, nor any signs of reduced Russian military presence on the borders of Ukraine, the NATO Secretary General said at a press conference in Brussels. We will continue to monitor and follow closely what Russia is doing. And so this is why everybody's happy today, I guess. Well, hey, they come back all the way back to '04, then giddy up. I'm still seeing like market maker like action. Like even the move down that we had and that broke the lows, I'm kind of a little suspicious about. Half a dozen academics from Columbia University and the University of Notre Dame believe that the SEC has failed to examine relevant securities lending data and didn't study a long enough stretch of transactions when conducting its investigation of the GameStop saga. Bloomberg reported this week. The SEC previously found that the short squeeze played little part in GameStop skyrocketing to the moon about a year ago. The 1,000% run up in the stock was widely attributed by social media participants to be the results of bulls going after short sellers, causing shorts to cover at higher and higher prices. But when the SEC released their official findings on the situation last October, they said shorts only played a minor role. Joshua Mitz, lead author of the study, argues that the SEC's analysis was erroneous. The SEC's October analysis used incomplete data and flawed methods to reach erroneous conclusions regarding the events of January 2021. Our findings suggest that the SEC's response to GameStop and other meme stocks may be deeply misguided. Mitz is also known for lobbying for new rules surrounding short selling, though his original 2018 white paper analysis to supplement that argument was recently called into question by well-known short seller Carson Block of Muddy Waters Research for potentially flawed analysis. The academics examining GameStop also pointed out that the SEC failed to examine the effects of a gamma squeeze in the name. They also took exception with the SEC for not reviewing short selling data in the name prior to December 24th, 2020, and failing to take into account posts on Reddit as early as October 2020 calling for a short squeeze in the name. Anti-fraud and anti-manipulation rules need to be overhauled for the social media era. The SEC should focus on distortive effects of short squeezes and gamma squeezes on the market and the harms they cause ordinary investors, Mitz says. Well, on that one particular point that the short sellers covering was that they said that it was only a minor role, I do remember reading that and being like, I'm not so sure about that one. But that they would say that the analysis itself was flawed and that they didn't use enough data, that would be like a really great explanation for it. But I hope that this does not get used by people to say that the entire investigation by the SEC was fraudulent, because I think that they made a lot of other investigations that matched up with things that we were trying to teach people. And I think that a lot of retail traders were misinformed by the GameStop fiasco and have ideas about the way that the market works now because of it that are false. And they could use this to try and just, to try and avoid having to admit that they don't know what they're talking about, But it's an interesting story. Okay, so now we have 10 votes. And 3 of you think, yes, they will tomorrow, that Russia will attack Ukraine tomorrow. So it's not a complete consensus. Although maybe some of you guys are just trying to be contrary. What you got, Celine? Yeah, this is a tiny little winner. It's better than nothing. Look at that. All the way back to 043. Why the volume there? I might have just come in at the, just started paying attention to it at the wrong moment, because right there, that volume at 24 seems like a lot, and that it was moving around quite excessive. But now I'm looking at it like, no, they're ticking up, and they're just ticking back and forth across that price. The treasuries did move up across the board. I'm not detecting any too strong of a spread going on here. The S&P 500 continues to be somewhat choppy. We are seeing a change in the dollar. That change in the dollar is resulting in the Japanese yen moving up, and hence the treasuries move. But hmm, I don't know. They're not the same since you began swinging. The markets are not a moving wallpaper. What do you mean by that? That the markets are not a moving wallpaper? Are you saying that I'm not active enough in the trade? Is that what you mean? Because that might be true. Like, here's the thing: is that I took some of those swings. Um, I only did a few of them and then kind of stopped. And more recently, most of my trades have just been $10. But yeah, I'm way more selective. Like I've basically started to separate the market between like there's informed trading going on and there's not. And so if I have a reason to be like informed trading, then I'll try and get really engaged and involved and take a scalp. But if I don't, then yeah, I do. I barely watch it because watching it just makes me want to take a trade, you know? If you scalp, you get scalped. It seems to me that coming in and saying here's a range and I want to try and take the edge of that range on the theory that they're going to bounce there and all that there's just not enough probability there for that trade to really be worth taking. True for scalpers who use TA, yeah. But I think that it's more than that. I think that I've also kind of started to I mean, I go back and forth, but I think to some extent I've kind of given up. Like it's not like if I had given up, then I would just not be trading at all. But I think what I've given up on is like I'm never going to like build this account really big or have a whole lot of success with like scalping it. Clearly, I could do a CTA strategy that makes a lot more sense to do in the treasuries. Like CTA strategies, commodity trading advisor strategies, tend to be momentum based and are more high time frame sort of things, and they're not scalping. So what does that tell you, right? Maybe trying to scalp it, unless you're a robot, isn't really a very good idea, right? And so that's why I've kind of turned to, okay, let's just save it for when there's actually something going on. So I took a couple of trades off stream and I made money. Like I had was down quite big and I'm back to where I was. So yeah, so I kind of gave up on the idea. I'm not saying I gave up on trading, but I gave up on uh, ever making a significant amount from scalping. So for me, scalping is more about having skin in the game and is kind of like a loss leader that helps me understand what's going on in the market and keep a good pulse on the market. But I'm not don't want to do it too much because I know that overall it's going to be generally a losing position, and so I need to be selective about when I use it, right? I didn't think that I was gonna make millions, but like percentages like double the account. Like I thought, oh, we could work it from like $1,000 account to like a $5,000 account or something like that. And I no longer think that that's practical. And again, the 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 further and further on I go into this, the more anti-technical analysis I become, and the more I need to be informed I become. And but also the more I realize that there are many times where I'm just really not informed. Like this particular situation right now in the treasuries is like a really great example. Is there actually a reason for the treasuries to be moving? Is there a significant reason that I could have predicted that would have told me that the treasuries would trade back across this range again? Uh, I don't think so. As far as I can tell, it's just 6J correlations. So does that mean that I should take O 04 half? Uh, we could take the risk. I could put the order right there. Oh, that's the wrong account. I might already be too late, right? The only thing that I do know is that we're going to be tilted towards higher interest rates given the current situations, and that there is still some possibility of headline risk coming in and shoving us down. So that means that overall, I would prefer to be long rates. And if I do get long rates, I want to get a good price. 2.04 half is an okay price, but like, is that really enough to base my trade on? I don't know. But that's where it's like, you know what? If this one doesn't work, that's probably going to be like the only one I take today. And but another thing that's going on is that I realized that what I know is so much more important than scalping, you know? Like, I wish that I had the knowledge and expertise to run a fund, because I'm starting to feel like that's what I should be doing. If it was about making the money, then I should be trying to run a fund that would be more high time frame. I don't want to keep sending you my trades, but I need to because CQG doesn't keep my data every time I change my email to get. I hear you. I understand what you're doing. Anyways, I think that the stuff that we've learned about the inelastic theory of markets, and how markets react to order flow, and how strongly they react to it, I think that this is really significant information. I think that there are a lot of decisions being made out there at a societal level and a business level that misunderstands this sort of a stuff, and that we could make a significant difference in the world by sharing this information, right? So I've kind of started to shift my focus a little bit towards doing that. So next video that we do, I'll be putting out the inelastic market hypothesis video. And that's the key video that I want to, to push. And so after that, what I want to do is, okay, so you know what? If they come back and tag that, I'm not so sure that I want it anymore. So my goal is going to be, after that, is bring as many people to the channel and try and funnel them to that video. In addition, because I don't think that the majority of those people are going to care about the trading software that I'm using, or any of those other affiliate links and that sort of a thing, right? If I'm bringing in a more general audience. So the goal will be more to push that more general audience to those key videos that really teach you about how the market behaves, right? So that's kind of where my focus changed. Like last year, well, in yeah, was it 2021? I think it was. Yeah. Good luck with what you have planned or is next. I am still at it. Yeah. Well, and the thing was is that when at the beginning of 2021, I said, well, we need to try and back test a little bit more and learn more about these things. And so I learned a lot. I did a lot of research and stuff. But like it just keeps coming back to trying to do anything just based on the movement of the market is kind of sketch. Probably isn't going to work. And trying to do something based just purely on the order flow is also, you know, I think you're more likely to find something from doing that, but it's super hard. Like there is a very high degree of auto correlation in order flow. So where if you see one buy, you're like 0.5% more likely to see another buy an hour later, right? Like so there is an auto correlation effect in markets, but the market makers account for this really, really well. The market makers account for this really, really well. So even you can kind of see how even if you're using the better information, the better methods in order flow, it only gets you so far, right? Yeah, we knew that. We knew that already. It only gets you so far, and so I kind of came to the conclusion that all of this wonking I was doing in the code with like indicator soup wasn't accomplishing much. So if you go back and you look at that strategy analyzer, I haven't run very many strategies like it did in 2022, 2021. So back then I was spending so much of my free time backtesting things and like really running the machine, right? Now I'm like, well, if I'm going to do that technical stuff, I need to be using like neural networks and like real machine learning stuff. And otherwise, my focus should be on understanding current happenings in the markets as well as possible, right? And my goal should be trying to create an audience of informed traders, right? So that's why my focus has turned much more like in the TikToks and stuff. I'd spend a lot more time just talking about the headlines for the day and trying to be funny to get people into it, right? So doesn't mean that I've given up with trading per se, but the focus has definitely changed. And I guess if you're looking for like the play by play on trades, that's bad, but I never wanted you guys to watch for the play by play on trades anyways, you know? So I don't really want people to follow my trades. But in general, I think that this change in my focus on the channel is a good thing for you guys in the long run, because what it essentially means is that I want to spend more time making videos that I think are going to help you guys understand the markets rather than backtesting things is what it means. It means I'm putting more time behind making content for you guys. One thing that I might do, I'm starting to think about it more and more and more, is we got to write a book, man. Because somebody was asking me the other, like, how do I become an informed trader? And I'm like, well, you got to read this and this and this and this. And this. You know, like it's hard. I don't think that there's a book that really adequately gives you the information that I think you need. So I think we should write a book, but I just don't have the time. I won't take the time, and it's hard to write a book in your free time at night. And I'm not very good at focusing. Like what I need is I need time during the day when I can block out for writing a book or I can take medication. I don't want to do it in the evening because then I'll be up all night. Yeah. But I think a book would be a really useful thing for people. Well, I could have gotten 04 half. When we were coming up, I thought about maybe 04 half. Would have been a bad trade, but like they're kind of threatening like that it could have reversed. And the 6J doesn't look like it's backing off. The ES is kind of just chopping. So again, here, what is a fair interest rate? Where should the interest rate be going? Like, what will the interest rate be by the end of the FOMC meeting in March, right? That's I think like the number we got to figure out. I don't know how to get that. How you determine that? The correlation between the federal funds rate and the 10-year interest rate is kind of a little loose, right? It does look like if we want to go long rates, and I think that in the longer run, we do want to be long rates, that 04 half, I guess, is as good a spot as any. But what I really wish is that I took a trade yesterday where I made $15 and then it kind of stopped, so I left it. But I kind of am now thinking that I should have tried to swing that one. But well, actually, the right decision really would have been to swing it. But I think that swinging it would have been making a trade that like the Ukraine situation really was going to blow over. And at the time, I was very unsure what was going to happen with the Ukraine situation and how much more volatility there would potentially be for it. So I don't think that we could have made that call yesterday. It sure will burn the mortgage, Bear. What do you mean by that? Oh, the rise in interest rates? Yeah. Well, anybody that wants to buy a house. But you know what? Like, kind of has to happen. It's like it's an unfortunate like here's the thing about economics, man. It's very rarely the case I've found that you can just come in and say, here's a policy. This would be good for everybody. Never works out that way, right? It's usually like one group benefits and another group doesn't. And that's certainly the case with interest rates. Like, I don't think that people realize this, but, well, I mean, they know, but I just don't see very many people talking about this or considering this in their analysis. And certainly not millennials, because millennials don't own homes, right? Most millennials, they want to get into homes, but they don't own homes, right? For people that already own a home, inflation is a good thing, right? Because it means that, assuming that your wages increase with the inflation, it means that your house, the costs of your housing, will become a smaller percentage of your income. So that's good, generally speaking. But it's bad for anybody that's not in a home, because it means that homes are getting more expensive, right? So to come in and lower interest rates, or sorry, raise interest rates, to come in and raise interest rates should presumably make it, I mean, that's going to make less people that want to get it, that are going to be able to buy homes, because the less credit available and everything. But presumably it should also make the homes a little bit more affordable for them. And it also should make building new homes more profitable, was my understanding. I don't understand why that is, but my understanding is that part of why they haven't been building new homes is because of low interest rates. Not if spending reduces. Well, if it kills the economy, then that's a whole different kind of a problem, isn't it? Yeah. If interest rates go up. But that's what's supposed to happen, right? Is that home prices should come back. We'll see. What's your tax rate and what state are you from? I'm from Germany, so don't know much about US tax. Well, I live in Utah. How much I pay in taxes, I don't know. I would have to go back and look at the number for you. I haven't finished doing my taxes for this year. I should probably I could get on that today. I have some time to do that today. I got like some of the more important stuff in there, but I got stuck with this child tax credit thing because they oh, actually I should go search my email, see if they responded. So like they were supposed to send you a letter about how much you received for child tax credits, but like I can't find mine. So my wife signed into her IRS account. Okay, cool. So I try and go and make my own IRS account, and they want like a pay stub with your social security number on it. And my work X's out the social security number on the documents. So I don't know how to get verified by them. And that's where I got stuck. That's where I got stuck. Oh, I did get a message. I'm so slow. Hmm. Letters from banks. Maybe I can get one from my bank. Yeah, I have to go and look at that later. Then I can see. I think though, so one of the problems that I have, or not, I guess it's not a problem, but one of the things that when my taxes comes up a lot is that they increased the standard deduction. So there's like you have to get to a certain point, and if you get to a certain point, then there's all of these other things that you can start adding on that you could possibly reduce your taxes further, and that tends to be the case for me. So sometimes what will happen is I will take a loss on futures trading, and that loss, puts me over the threshold, and then I'm able to save a lot more because of it. But it looks like that between the futures trading and the stocks that this past year that I did pull a profit. So that's not going to help on the taxes. It's not, I mean, it's not a ton, but it's like, oh, well, that's not going to help. Isn't that funny? But the taxes here tend to be like 25%, something like that. Unless you're really rich, and I'm not really rich. I need to charge my phone here. It's whining. Why would you ask about the tax rate, though? Well, I kind of wanted to take a trade there, but it's still kind of giving me these hints that like they're gonna push that upside, and it kind of makes me a little nervous. Capital gains tax, yeah. Capital. I'm probably gonna get hit by a capital gains tax this year, right? Like the whack alone is gonna be $300. But presumably, I will get so much back from the child tax credits that it won't matter. But that's why this letter matters, because I think that I just put in the same number that my wife did, but I don't know, and I don't know what to do. Might have to call them, because I'm pretty sure that I didn't get a letter in the mail about it. Capital gains tax in Germany is 25% of profits. Yeah, I forget what it is. It's in the 20s somewhere, right? I think it used to be 22, and they said that was too low, so now it's like 27. That's something that I should probably commit to memory, but yeah, it doesn't come up very often. There's lots of things that I should probably commit to memory that I don't. Well, there's an uptick at 24. So they've been very much willing to transact at 24, but not so much at 24 half. So we'll see if there's a little bit of a run. I'm thinking that if I really, really am that anxious to get long rates, and I kind of might be a little bit too late in the session for me to do it. But if I do get long rates, I might want to prefer to see a stop run above 24 half before I try to do it. And now if it's short term, then it gets taxed at your regular tax rate, which for the gains that I made, it's is going to be the case. I didn't take any profits on long term, like my long term investments. I just hold them. What I make on a day, average day from my regular investments far outweighs anything that I do with futures. So that was where one of the things was like, I would love to just put a big wad of my own money, like 5K in there and try and trade it. But like, I'll just be, I should put that into 529 accounts for the kids' college. Cause when the kids start going to school, that's probably going to suck. That's probably going to really suck. So well, they're not able to get above it, but they are still recovering the 24 many times here, so it may yet happen. It may yet happen. 100K for a kid's education. I hope that it's not that much. I won't be able to pay for it if it's that much. They'll have to take out student loans. I think it is in the like high mid to high four figures per semester though. Depending on where they go. But they'll probably just go here to the local university. And they might get scholarships. I don't know. You never know. I had a scholarship, but then when I went on my mission, it went away and they didn't give it back. I think I had made a mistake and I probably could have kept it. That was my recollection. Like I remember being really mad about it and trying to get other kinds of scholarships, but not succeeding. Howard, what's no? They just go to the University of Utah, right? So, dude, yesterday, we went on a car ride to try and put the baby to sleep, which worked wonderfully, by the way. I slept a lot better last night, and except for that, I kept waking up to pee. Oh, I hate that. And the girls decided to come with us, which I don't know why, because one of the girls wanted to read her book, which kind of didn't help having a light on in the car with the baby, but the younger one was asking like what jobs make money. Because she was talking like it would be really nice to have a pool and all of these sorts of things, and I'm like, well, make my YouTube channel blow up and then we can have a pool or whatever. And well, she was like, so what kind of jobs do make money? I was like, well, you can be a lawyer or you can be a computer programmer. If you're really if this life isn't good enough for you, maybe you should go the lawyer route. I don't know if she would make a good lawyer though. Well, she could. She's not old enough for me to really make that kind of a determination. I have to see, but she does not like school. She does not like school right now. You got to. I mean, that's what I think I would prefer. But you got to realize the kids that I'm talking about are my stepkids. So I have three stepkids, and then I have one that's together. That's mine. One that's mine, and he's just turned 2. And then I have another boy on the way that will come in June. It might actually be born on my birthday. My birthday is May 31st, so it could be close. It's kind of crazy to think that we're that close. I don't really think about it. I'm more. Oh my gosh, guys! I keep forgetting. You guys got to remind me tomorrow. We got to name the puppy. Have I shown you guys the pictures of the puppy? Anyways, the whole point of that was, I don't know if my wife's children would be interested in finance. And I kind of have to wait until they're getting into like trigonometry and calculus to really see if the math is something that they really like, you know? But I'm thinking that my son, Asher, he seems a little autistic to me, to be honest. I don't think that he's autistic. I think that he's ADHD like me, but he's interested in things. Right now, the thing he's interested in is cars. And so I'm thinking it should be pretty easy to get him to either go into an engineering role or a finance role. But my wife's kids, I'm not so sure. The older one, the oldest one, talked about curing cancer. I don't know what he really thinks now, but I think that a doctor would probably be a pretty good um, career for him, because those kids, and him in particular, her kids have exceedingly unusually high language skills, is how I would put it. Unusually high language skills. Like they speak quite sophisticated from a young age. Where did I put it? Oh, dog. Here we go. This is the puppy. Do you see the puppy? He's got little freckles on his nose, on the skin of his nose. Isn't he the most adorable? Isn't that cute? Wait, I think there's a new one that I didn't download. Right, let me go find that new one. So here's the thing. We're getting this dog in a week from Saturday. So it's coming up here soon. We're going to have him soon. And I'm thinking he will probably be joining us for the stream quite a lot. He'll probably be joining us for the, I would call it, that was the leading name, and stuff, was Oreo. Because here, I already closed the freaking window. The third picture. Hold on a second here. Let me grab this one. Oh, there it is right there. Here's him. He's a little bit older. Right. And then there's this other one here. There you go. From his backside. From his backside, he looks like an Oreo. Call him Lord Mountbatten. Wait, where do you get a name like that? Lord Mountbatten? He is. I think they're cute. I mean, he's a puppy, but it's a Papillon. It's a Papillon. It's got mostly black hair, mostly black Papillon. And so they're small dogs, right? They're small dogs. And so I think that in the beginning that he'll want to be with us a lot. And so we'll probably have him here in stream and holding him. The Yorkies that didn't work very well to have the dog, but this guy, I think he'll chill with us a lot. Oh, I was searching. Where do you get Lord Mountbatten? That Louis Mountbatten of Burma was a member of the British royal family and he was the last viceroy of India. Oh. So he was the main villain when India was searching for independence. Was he? Is that what that is? That's freaking hilarious. Oversaw the partition of British India into India and Pakistan, and then served as the first governor of India until June 1948. Career, last viceroy of India. Name him Lord Farquaad. No, he's like, I was like, I want to be a cute name. I was looking, like, here's the thing is like with the thing, we're like, well, let's call him Goku or Vegeta or something like that, right? But now I see him, and maybe it changes, but he doesn't look so fierce to me now. He looks so cute, and I don't think that when he gets older that he will necessarily look fierce. So I'm not so into fierce names anymore. If we're going to have him on the stream all the time, I think that it would be good to have, some sort of a trading or probability related name. But I don't know. I suggested that he could be called Nostradamus, but my wife didn't really like that. She's like, why don't we call? I'm like, no, you'll just call him Nasi. Why is that not a good name? Nasi. Nostradamus. Come on. Wait, what was Nostradamus' first name? Nostradamus. Michel. Oh, he was French. Wait, are we looking at the vote? Les Prophéties. Yeah. I think that's a good name. Nasi. I'm going to, I mean, if it's between Oreo and Nasi, I'm going to lobby more heavily for Nostradamus. I don't think that my wife knows who that is. So. And then we can have Nostradamus predict interest rates. Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, Nasi. Oreo is better. Well, think about it for a day. Okay, tomorrow you can tell me what your names are. Pork chop. I think or ironic names are hilarious, but I don't know if I'd be able to convince them to go along with that with like a name like pork chop. Oh my gosh, I was watching this video the other day. It was a stand-up comedian that was on TikTok, and he was talking about what people name their dogs, and it was saying that white people tend to give their dogs human names. And so there was this, they started asking some black members of the audience to tell us about their dogs, right? And oh man, what was the name that they used? I can't even remember the name, but both of those two people named their dog the same thing. It was so funny. Man, I totally blew that up because I can't remember what the punchline was. I can't remember what the name was. Most popular dog names. Dog de Bordeaux. What? Oh, is that a breed? Interesting. Well, one of the things was I was like saying we should name him after a famous financier or trader, but then it's like, yeah, but would that dog really be reincarnated as a Papillon? You know, like what is who's a person that is a Papillon in personality? Yeah, it's a breed. Yeah, I see it. I didn't know that was a breed. Coco, that's what it was. Yes, okay. So they ask a couple of white people in the audience what they named their dogs, and it was like real names like Jack and stuff like that. And then they asked this lady, what's the dog? I don't know. She doesn't know what kind of dog it is. And what's its name? Coco, right? So then they asked this guy, and it's the same thing as like my sister brought it over one day, and what's its name? Coco. And he was so embarrassed that it was named Coco. If you want to name him after a finance legend, I can only suggest Simonim or Bogdanov. I don't know who those people are. Who's search? I've never heard. That's a name I've definitely never heard before. It was funny because like I think cocoa, I think chocolate, and oh, that's M&M spelled backwards. Boy Siminim is a resident of the stock realm and a great ally to Boris in the first arc of the official Boris manga. Oh, okay. Anyways, but the dog that he had, there was nothing Coco about it, right? Oreo. The one thing about Oreo is that I feel like Oreo is almost too obvious of a name. These are both Russians. So here's the other thing is that these are papillons, which is French. So I think that a French name would be better. Right? I was saying we should call him Pepe, because then he could be called Pepe the Pappy Pupper. Right? Pepe the Pappy Pupper. Something like that. So, but Nostradamus was French, so it works. Nasi. I'm a lobby for Nasi, but I'm thinking Coco might win out. But we'll have you guys vote, so you guys can come up with other names. Now that you know what he looks like, and what the kind of how we feel about different types of names. Well, the treasury is still sitting there at 24, so war is off, but it just kind of resulted in chop. I'm a little, I don't know. I kind of thought that if things cooled off, that there would be like a market recovery day sort of a thing, and there was an overnight move, but the regular session has been pretty tight. So I don't know. Ukraine invasion canceled. Market chop. The black trade boys got jacked. Dude, I'm really genuinely interested to know if if market behavior changes because of this. Because well, the thing is, I don't know if it matters in the treasuries. I think that in the treasuries there's so much activity, but there are definitely some situations that I've seen. Like for instance, we knew that a black trade was coming through because it like got reported by the News Squawk. If you use News Squawk, they report those. And then price slowly went right to that price, and then a huge trade came through and printed on the DOM. And I'm like, so people can know about it and front run it? What? And like how often could it, and then this story comes out, I'm like, okay, so how often does this happen? Is this only happen in really illiquid markets where they really need people to help them with the liquidity and stuff, and so they're telling these guys like, hey, we're going to sell it down a lot, so you should be able to pick it up for a cheap price and you can help provide liquidity for us, right? Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be really interested to see what the results of that investigation is going to come from. That's something that we should keep a really close eye on, huh? Anyways, I have got to get going. So thank you guys very much. Fun stream. Wish I had gotten that. I really would have liked to have gone 04 to 05, but it didn't happen. And again, the market action is as such that I probably shouldn't be taking very many trades anyways. So, and it might be the later half of February. If this all just blows over, I don't know, maybe February ends up being really quiet. I hope not, but hey, we'll see what happens. Make sure that you guys are subscribed both here and on TikTok. And I will see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable, friends.